What's up guys, Mainly Hockey Cards here, and today we're looking at all 50 Young Guns from this year's 2024-25 Upper Deck Series 1 hockey. I will give an investment potential letter rating from F to A for each card. In general, I see Fs as cards to stay away from, Ds as players with limited to no potential for value, Cs as players that are on the fringe of having more value but look more like depth players, Bs as players that have increasing potential but may have inconsistencies or uncertainties, and As as players that are the highlights of the product and have the highest potential value ceiling. It is important to note I am not a financial advisor. Please do your own due diligence and research before investing in anything or anyone. 2024-25 Upper Deck Series 1, let's get underway. Zachary Bolduc was a dynamic scorer in juniors and had 9 points in his first 25 NHL games. He'll get some good looks with the Blues, but may also spend some time in the AHL to further develop. B-. Jesper Wallstedt is starting the season on the Wild as Minnesota runs 3 goaltenders. He turns 22 in November and is one of the most highly touted young goalies in the league, just signing a 2-year extension. The Wild are an exciting team to watch, and he's clearly their goalie of the future. A. Landon Slaggert is a solid two-way forward that grinds every shift out. He likely projects to top out as a reliable depth forward. C-. Kyle MacLean is a 25-year-old forward who had 9 points in his first 32 NHL regular season games and added a goal in the playoffs. He's been a steady contributor in the AHL, but much like Slaggert, projects to be a depth forward. C-. Mason Morelli is a 28-year-old forward that has had modest production in the AHL and chipped in a few points in limited NHL action last year. Nothing too crazy to write home about. D. Brennan Othmann was someone I was eyeing going into this season. Unfortunately, his preseason was inconsistent at best, and he's starting the season in Hartford. He still could be a top 6 forward, but needs to show consistency before that's a possibility. B. Gavin Brindley dominated the NCAA with Michigan, was one of the USA's best players at the World Juniors, and looks to move up the CBJ lineup when he's activated from injured reserve. He just turned 20 and is a very high-energy player that is reliable defensively too. B. Bradley Nadeau is a 19-year-old forward that led the University of Maine in scoring last season. Go Black Bears. He played one single NHL game, but hopes are high for a player that could be a dangerous offensive threat in coming years. B+. Zack Ostapchuk is a 21-year-old forward starting the year in the AHL, but just finished his first full pro season. He put up decent totals and should be one of the first call-ups for the Senators. For now, B-. Jason Polin is a 25-year-old winger that hasn't done all too much to turn heads at the professional level. D+. Shakir Mukhamadullin is a mobile, big-bodied defenseman who has a cannon for a shot and looked right at home in his first North American season for the Barracuda. The former KHL standout is going to be a big piece of that Sharks rebuild. B-. Cutter Gauthier is one of the most highly anticipated rookies from this group. One of the early favorites for the Calder Trophy, Gauthier is a high-scoring power forward that is also defensively responsible and could grow to agitate opponents too. A+. Zack Dean is a 21-year-old centerman who has had a rough time transitioning from juniors to the pros, but the former first-round pick has the tools to become a solid playmaker. B-. Luca Del Bel Beluz is a soon-to-be 21-year-old centerman who scored his first NHL goal in his lone NHL game last season. He put up solid AHL point totals, and while starting the year in the AHL, could very well be called up throughout the year. C+. Maverick Bourque won AHL MVP last season after putting up 77 points in 71 games, and then added 11 points in 7 games in the playoffs. The 22-year-old may be the undisputed dark horse rookie of this class. B+. Matt Rempe is already a fan favorite in the league. If he can add some tools to his offensive game and fine-tune his skating, he could become a very effective bottom 6 player. While he will command hobby love these first few years, it's tough to say if that value will last beyond that time. C+. Matt Villalta had a rough go of it in 2 NHL games last season, but put up solid numbers as the starter for the Coyotes' AHL affiliate. C. Maxwell Crozier is a 24-year-old defenseman that put up modest production at the AHL level and chipped in a few points at the NHL level, D+. James Malatesta is a hard-working forward who excels at playing at a high tempo on both ends of the ice. While his AHL production wasn't great, he did put up 4 points in his first 11 NHL games. He's going to get some more seasoning at the AHL level, C. Ivan Fedotov is a 6'8" goaltender for the Flyers. He's historically been a premier KHL goaltender, but really struggled in his first few appearances for the Flyers last season. Let's call it a transition period and see how he does this coming season before writing things off, B-. Ethan Del Mastro had 37 points in his first 69 AHL games. Great numbers for a 20-21-year-old. While he will start the season in the AHL, he is yet another young Blackhawks defenseman to look out for in the future, B-. Justin Brazeau is a hulking 6'5" forward for the Boston Bruins, a guy who worked his way through the ECHL and AHL. Brazeau finally got his shot last year and hasn't looked back. He looks to be a late bloomer that should be a highly effective bottom six forward, C+. Colin Graff is a recently turned 22-year-old forward that tore up the NCAA prior to scoring 2 points in his first 7 NHL games. He'll start the season in the AHL, but should get some more looks on a bad Sharks team, B-. Graham Clark is a gifted offensive player that has scored 50 goals across his past 2 AHL seasons, but has only played 2 NHL games. Now with the Minnesota Wild, he'll start the year in the AHL, but will be on the radar for a call-up, B-. Scott Morrow is a soon-to-be 22-year-old defenseman that played admirably in 3 years at UMass before playing his first 2 NHL games last season. Seeing that this is his first full pro season, it will be interesting to see how his game translates, C+. Brendan Brisson had 8 points in his first 15 NHL games and was recently recalled to Vegas. While he may need some more time to craft his game in the AHL, he projects to be a middle six forward with upside, B-. Frank Nazar had 1 goal in his first 3 NHL games after coming off a point-per-game campaign for the Michigan Wolverines. He will start the season in the AHL, but has the tools to become an offensive threat in the NHL, B+. Brad Lambert made incredible strides last season, scoring 55 points in 64 AHL games and tacking on an assist in his NHL debut. He's a boom-or-bust type prospect. He could very well be a future first-line player, but he could also top out as a bottom six energy player. Somewhat controversially, I will give him an A-. Lane Hudson looks to be the offensive defenseman of the future for the Montreal Canadiens. In his first 2 games last season, he had 2 assists. To start this season, he's a point per game. In his 2 seasons at Boston University, he had 97 points in 77 games, including 30 goals. He is the real deal and will command a lot of hobby love right out of the gate. A+. Pierre Dubé is a French winger who had a strong AHL campaign between the regular season and playoffs en route to a Calder Cup. He only appeared in 3 NHL games, but will be given more opportunities, assuming he continues to be consistent. C+. Arshdeep Bains is one of only 4 Punjabi players to ever have played an NHL game, which is pretty cool. While he went scoreless in 8 NHL games last season, he was nearly a point per game in the AHL. He was recently recalled by the Canucks and is trending toward eventually becoming a top 6 player, though middle 6 is more likely, B-. Ruslan Iskhakov is an intriguing prospect simply because he showed great talent in the AHL and has incredible stick skills. But after just 2 NHL appearances, he's signed to play in the KHL for this season. We could see him again, or maybe we don't, C-. Josh Doan, son of Shane Doan, had 9 points in his first 11 NHL games last season. New market, new fan base, who knows what's going to happen, B-. Jack St. Ivany is a big and steady defenseman that doesn't look to behold all too much offensive upside, D. Jan Kuznetsov is a big-bodied defender that likely tops out as a depth option, D. Olin Zellweger put up 9 points in his first 26 NHL games. Anaheim has a tough market for hobby love, which doesn't help him, but I think he'll have a real strong rookie season and turn some heads, B+. Marshall Rafai is another defender that likely tops out as a depth option, D. Cameron Crotty is a defensive defenseman on a one-year deal in Minnesota, starting the year in the AHL, D-. Logan Mailloux is a 21-year-old defenseman who had a stellar first season in the AHL, scoring 47 points in 72 games, and also had an assist in his first NHL game. Once a controversial draft pick who has since worked to turn things around, he is very highly touted and could be yet another great young defenseman on the Canadiens roster sooner than later, B+. Sam Colangelo is a 22-year-old forward starting the year off in the AHL after success in limited pro action last year. He's a two-way forward with a heavy shot, some offensive upside here, but the first full year in the pros will be a teller, C+. Emil Lilleberg is a heavy-hitting defensive defenseman until we see some offensive potential, D+. Akil Thomas struggled offensively for his first 3 years of professional hockey until he put up 46 points in 64 AHL games last year and added 3 goals and an assist in his first 7 NHL games. Now 24, he looks to be finding his stride as a late bloomer. He will start the season in the AHL though, C+. Marat Kuznetsov is a 22-year-old centerman for the Wild that put up 4 points in his first 16 NHL games last season. He likely becomes a steady two-way forward inside the top 6 of a lineup, B-. Logan Stankoven is an early frontrunner for the Calder Trophy after an impressive season in both the AHL and NHL. In the first game of this fresh campaign, Stankoven put up 3 assists in less than 13 minutes of time on ice. It's a sign of continuous good things to come, A+. Nikita Chibrikov put up 47 points in his first 70 AHL games in his first North American pro season. He also scored a goal in his NHL debut. He is a shifty playmaker with high hockey IQ, B. Joshua Waugh had an impressive 9 points in his first 23 NHL games last season, and while he will start the season in Laval, he could be an early season call-up. Being a French-Canadian player, playing in a French-Canadian market could also propel his value tremendously, B+. Gage Goncalves is a 23-year-old forward that has excelled at the AHL level but has only played a couple NHL games. Still, in the contract year, he could very well get some looks from Tampa as the season progresses, C. Liam Ogren is a 20-year-old, highly touted young forward for the Minnesota Wild. Gifted offensively and playing both ends of the ice well, he could be a great fit on the Wild for the future, B. Lucas Cormier had dynamic offensive production in juniors, but the defenseman's production has been modest at the AHL level, 1 point in his first 2 NHL games, C. Checklists are checklists are checklists, C-. As always, this video took a ton of time and research, so if you did like the video, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. Here's an overview of the entire class. It will also be listed down below in the video description. Enjoy Series 1. Peace.